Have you ever heard the term "you salty"? Anyone ever heard that? Like, oh, she's salty. He's being a little bit. Anyone ever heard that? Show of hands. Watching online, give us a thumbs up. Okay, a lot more of you. Good. I know I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but it was actually years back, like maybe 15 years ago. I'm coaching at Ironton, and one of our head coach, his name was Bob Lutz, won a ton of games. But let me preface this story first. First time I ever heard this phrase. So I loved watching Coach Lutz because he was like obsessive compulsive personality, super detailed. I mean, practice would be down to the second. That was his personality. But what was crazy to me was he knew, like, you'd be like, hey, coach, on 3rd and 7, what do you think? Like, he was in it. But he knew, like, the littlest things that all of us would pick up on, clueless. And my favorite thing was anytime we would, like, go to shake hands at the end of the game, I'd get right behind him because I loved it, because it never failed. He'd be going to shake hands, and he'd look back and say, who's their head coach again? No clue. No clue. Any head coach anywhere. I mean, Belford's like, that coach has been coaching for 50 years. He's like, I don't know who he is. He didn't care. So it was always funny to me, but I remember one game, I won't say the team's name, some of you might be still bothered by this game, but it was like 58 at halftime. Ended up being 60-something, just mauled them, right? We're getting ready to shake hands, and he walks up to this head coach. I mean, he's like, they're facing each other, and he looks back at me and he says, which one's the head coach? And I'm like, that guy, right? The guy in the red hat literally looking at you right now. And I remember, so he turns over, oh, hey, great game. Yeah. He goes shake his hand. Well, this guy's just like, whatever, walks off. Well, as we're walking away, the first time I ever heard this phrase, he looked at me and said, well, he was a little bit salty. And I was like, well, coach, you beat him by 70 and didn't know his name. He probably, should be, that can lead to a little saltiness. First time I heard it. So what's that mean? Like, salty, when we say it in our area and, our stuff, it's like, oh, yeah, well, you're a little bit upset, a little bit hurt, a little bit maybe mad at someone, maybe you're sulking, maybe you're complaining. But I want to challenge you this morning to be salty. Challenge everyone in this room to be salty maybe in a different type way. So we're in this series called The Good Life, and just so you get kind of an overview here of what we've done, we're in week 4. So if you missed it, Aaron talked about heart last week, and basically that thing, we're all searching for that thing, only realize what that thing really is. I talked about attitude weeks 1 and 2 with faith and like how we react. Reaction shows our faith. Not our actions, but actually our reactions to our faith. And then today we're going to talk about serving. Next week I'm in this whole thing as we talk about grace. But the point of this whole thing is, if you want, here's the whole series. Matthew 5, Jesus stands up on this mount. This mountain's called the Sermon on the Mount, this hill. And he starts teaching, and he says this. He's like, do you want more joy in your life? Yeah. Do you want to be blessed by God? Yeah. Do you want to be happy? That's what the word really translates to. Do you want to be happy? Well, I'm going to tell you what happy is, but in God's kingdom, it's always upside down. What I mean by that is, God's kingdom, there's arguments like, we want to be the greatest. You climb the ladder, you step on people, you make sure you get what's yours. And Jesus is like, no. The greatest are the least. The greatest are the ones who choose to serve. So God's kingdom has always been upside down. It's opposite of how we want to operate. So Jesus kind of gives these things. What's that look like? So today, as we talk about this concept of salty, I want to give you just 2 quick thoughts from Matthew chapter 5. We're going to be starting in verse 13. First thought is this: we are happier being salty than faulty. What do I mean by that? You will have more happiness, peace, joy, all the things blessed in your life if you choose to be a salt shaker over a fault finder. You see, in the Christian Bible Belt, what we've come to believe is God wants us to call out everybody else. God wants us to be judgmental. God wants us to tell other people they're not doing it right because we are, because we're always right. And Jesus said, no, I'm not calling you to be a fault finder. I'm calling you to be a salt shaker. Look what he says in verse 13. He says, you are the salt of the earth. But what good is salt if it's lost its flavor? What good is salt if salt has no taste? And then he says, can you make it salty again? It'll be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. There's like salty and sweet taste. Anyone here a salty person? You love salty foods? Salty? Great. 7 of you want to play? Fine, okay. What about sweet? By sweet, more? Okay, more hands. Who like me? Like, I'm both. I like both. Hold your hands up. You're pre-diabetics. Hold your hands up, okay? We've got doctors in here. They're taking... Got you. Yeah, we saw that, right? No, all those things. My wife loves salt. She's back there filming right now, okay? And I will promise you this. I brought this today. You know how I know she's so mad right now? Because this is her salt shaker, and I promise you, she won't film or focus the rest of the message because she'll be looking at, he better not forget my salt shaker. That's all she's thinking about because she loves salt. She puts salt on everything. I've been trying to be heart healthy. So I'm like, hey, when you make something, don't put salt in it. You just put it in afterwards. I watch her. We were eating soup the other night, and of course it tastes awful. Anyone ever have Mrs. Dash? I think it's called Miss Dash, something Miss Dash. Tastes like salt. Terrible. I heard someone say, it's awful, right? That's what Jesus is talking about. He's like, hey, you have a salt alternative? It's terrible. It's the worst. But I watch her over there, and she's just like, shh. And here's why I say that. Salt is tiny, almost unnoticeable, but it changes the game. Take something that doesn't have salt, and then you add salt, and you're like, man, it just tastes better. It takes whatever food you're eating and makes the flavor better. What's Jesus saying here? He's like, look, I'm not asking you to be big, do big things. I'm asking you in the little moments, what if you made the things around you better? We don't do that by being a fault finder. We do that by being salt shakers. Are you the salt there? That's what Jesus told us. Then the second one, real quick. We're happier being light than right. We are happier when we choose to be light as opposed to being right. Look what he says. He says, you're the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. Verse 15, no one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. Now, all of you young people didn't get that, so I'm going to give you the Trent Carpenter version of verse 15. Keep it up there, okay? This is what it says. No one takes their iPhone light, turns it on, and then covers their hand with it. That would be stupid. Instead, you actually hold it out in a dark room so everyone around you can see what the light is pointing to. Verse 16, in the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see. So why would I try to do something good? Why do I try to help my neighbor? Why do I check on my elderly neighbor, make sure she's doing okay because I know she can't get around as much? Why would I do that? Look, all this ties back to let your good deeds shine out for all to see so that everyone will praise your Father in heaven. I'd rather be salty than faulty because I'm happier. I would rather be light than right because I'm happier. But just so you guys can get that, I want to give you this quick graph, okay? Because this is what I'm afraid is Bible Belt USA in the church, okay? Oh, it is. What we do is we think we are really making a difference in people's lives by proving how right we are. Talk to anybody. I have several friends in different denominations. I have several friends who are Catholic, have several friends who are Presbyterian. You name it, I've got them all, okay? Good friends. I think the world of them. And I was having breakfast with a couple guys the other day, and you know, you've got you've got Baptists, and you got Methodists, you got Church of Christ. And I thought, I know, I'm not that smart, but I'm smart enough to know, I can't say certain things. They'll all lose their minds. They will argue, like they even like each other. They will argue. You know why they're going to argue? Because deep down, everyone sitting at the table is like, I know, I'm right. See, that's what we think the church is. The church is just a bunch of us walking around saying, I know I'm right. I'm right. Listen to me. I'm right. But Jesus didn't operate that way. Matter of fact, here's what happens. If you want to live your life, this is good for you. This is good for your marriage. This is good for your dating relationship. This is good for your work environment. If you want to live your life like you are always right, here's what will happen. This is the cycle. You will feel superior. You see, you know why I know I'm right? Because you're dumb. Because you just don't get it. You just don't see what I see because I'm smarter or better than you. I feel superior. What's that lead to? Well, I become judgmental. I don't get why other people don't see things the way I see them. Can't believe it, so I'm going to fight about it. I'm going to argue on Facebook all day long. Then what happens? We become easily angered and offended, which cycles right back into feeling superior. So if this is a good question, you're like, I'm not like that. I don't think I'm right. Do you get angered and offended easily? Yeah. Well, why? Because you're talking about something that you're adamantly correct on. Now, with all my friends, here's the crazy thing. If I was sitting with all my friends in all these different groups and I said, do you think Jesus is the source of this all? Yeah. Do you believe Jesus was fully the Son of God? Yeah. Do you believe our only hope is through Jesus? Absolutely. Okay. Like we're much closer than we think. But now bring up speaking in tongues or you can go down the line. People are going, why? Because I'm right. But there's a different way to live. And Jesus says, but what if you live in this, I'm forgiven? Now I feel gratitude. You see, when I truly realize how forgiven I am, I don't judge you. I can't. I know where I'm at. I know who I am. What's that lead to? It leads to me becoming more accepting. I actually can care about you and see you for who you are. And then that leads to overflowing with love. Guess what happens? As you overflow with love and realize how thankful you are for all that God's done in your life, it cycles back through. So we have to make a choice here. Do we want to be right? Because you can never serve someone when you're spending all your time trying to prove how right you are. You can't love people and be right all the time at the same time. You just can't. And I have to talk about this before, why did non-religious people love to hang out with Jesus? Think about that. If you don't believe me, go back, just read the 4 Gospels, read about Jesus' life, and you'll find all these people on the outside loved being around Jesus. Every single one of them. Why? Look it up. Jesus didn't make them feel wrong. Jesus made them feel loved. Now, I have several friends who think all this is a joke. They love me. I say they love, they're guys. They never say they love me. They like me, and we're friends. I think they respect me somewhat, but if you just really got deep into this, they'd be like, dude, what a money racket. They go down the line. They think all this is a joke, all we're doing right now. But in people's defense, what's the picture of the church? A group of people that are really good at being right and being judgmental. Jesus didn't roll that way. Jesus came in and said, no, I'm not here to make you feel wrong. I'm here to make you feel loved. Now, I'm going to give you just I'm going to go Bible nerd for just a second, super fast, and we'll come back in John, because I want to finish this out. Be a Bible nerd for just a second. If you read through the Bible, God gets different characteristics. Kind of the main 5 I read that kind of come back through is they say, God is love. Okay, this is God. It's the character. God is light. So in our darkness, God is light. God is life, or holiness, or righteousness. God is spirit, and God is an all-consuming fire. Those are 5 characteristics that all mean something different. Here's what's interesting, though. Read in the New Testament. You can read it cover to cover. God calls us to walk in only 4 of those 5. He said, hey, I want you to walk in love. Hey, that's the first one. I want you to walk in the Spirit. Okay. Hey, I want you to walk in life. Okay. And I want you to walk in light and be a light. Okay. You know the one he doesn't add? He never calls us to walk in consuming fire. Now, I'm reading through the book of John right now, like in my personal time. And just the other day, it hit me. They're talking to Jesus, and they're like, well, why are you not judging them? And Jesus says, I can't. Only my Father's the perfect judge. So if Jesus is saying he really doesn't want to judge something, how come we feel like we're more than that? No consuming fire. We're called to walk in love, in light. We're called to walk in life where people can see life and feel the life God's given us. Okay, sorry, that's Bible nerd stuff. So as I'm going to go to John chapter 13 real quick, because I want you to see how Jesus didn't just talk about this, but he lived it out. What does it mean to be salt and light to a group of people? Now, with that whole concept, I want you to kind of feel this, okay? Here's the thing, I got to make a choice. And I'm going to serve or not serve. Pride wants to make a point, okay? Pride always wants to make a point. Love wants to make a difference. And you can't do both at the same time. I can't be driving home my point and trying to prove you wrong and love you at the same time. They have different meanings. Why were people drawn to Jesus? Because his moral superiority? No. I believe for this whole point, because literally he was like, I know he had authority to be right. He was right. I believe he was 100% right. That wasn't his game. His game was, hey, I want to make a difference. I want you to know how much I care about you. Love makes a difference. Pride tries to make a point. So in John 13, this is where I want you to kind of see where the rubber meets the road. John 13, Jesus is getting to the very end. He knows he's getting ready to go to the cross. It's going to be dark. And he calls it was the Passover time in the Jewish custom. So he's going to have a meal and sit down with his followers one last time. Check this out. It says verse 1. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world, return to his Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth. And now he loved them to the very end. Now, what we're about to see here, Jesus is going to do something incredibly messy. And you know why? Because serving and loving is messy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It is messy. There's a C3er by the name of Aaron, not Aaron from the stage, another Aaron, a guy. And several years back, we had a guy who attended here. He's since then moved actually to another area. but while he lived here, he was attending. Awesome guy. But his wife had multiple physical, like health issues, severe, incredible. And as she continued to get worse and worse, and you could just kind of watch it over the years, and you knew it was getting bad. And man, he cared for her. It was better than any Notebook movie you've ever. I'm telling you, it was humbling to watch how much he loved and cared for his wife. I'm in Columbus, and he calls me at night, and I kind of know what's going down. He's like, "Hey, just so you know, hospice is called in. I already knew that, but it's getting really close." And I was like, "Listen, man, I'm so sorry. I'm in Columbus. I have to be here. I'll leave early in the morning to come back." And he was like, "No, I'm not asking you to do anything. Just pray. Just pray for me, because this is tougher than I thought." Well, about that time, I send a group text to a group of people. I'm like, "Hey, just got the message. Pray for him. Pray for his wife. It's getting close." And one of the guys on the text, Aaron, reads that. Well, the next morning, I wake up really early because I'm trying to get back. And I actually text him, and it's like, 4 or 5 in the morning. I'm like, "Hey, I'll be there in just a few hours. How are things? Coming back to kind of be with you, pray with you guys." And he says a phrase, blew my mind. He said, "Well, Aaron's still here." I literally, so I call him, like, what do you mean, Aaron? He's like, "Well, Aaron," he said, "I don't know who told him, but last night about 10 o'clock he came, and he sat on this couch with me all night. And he said, now he's just getting ready to leave because he has to head back to work." And it hit me. This guy, not some superhuman Christian, just a guy who said, "This guy's hurting, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go in and I'm going to sit with him all night because I don't want him to just be alone with him and his wife." But here's what we got to say. We all hear that story and we're like, "Man, that's so unbelievable." And it is unbelievable. But do you think that's messy? Do you think it's messy heading to work when you haven't slept all night? Do you think it's messy when you didn't even get to take a shower? It is. It's messy. Jesus is looking at this group. They've been walking. Okay, here, get the picture. They're getting ready to walk to this meal. Jesus is probably carrying a lot of weight because he's like, "I'm getting ready to die. I'm going to go across. I know it's going to be savage. It's going to be awful." And about that time, an argument breaks out from his followers. Okay, here's the argument. They're arguing over because their mama said who was going to be the greatest in the kingdom. So they're having an argument about who's going to be the greatest. "We think it's going to be us too. My mom said it'll be us too. We're your closest followers." Other people argue, "No, I think it should be us." Jesus walks in this meal and he says something pretty profound. He says, "One of you in this room is going to betray me." Not betray me like said something a little bad on Facebook. Betray me in that I'm going to die and you're going to be the one that turns me in. Pretty bad. And after he says that, and after he just listened to his whole group argue about who could be the greatest, he kneels down and he washes their feet. So the last thing before he's about to die is he washes their feet. He says, "I don't want you guys to forget." They don't even want to do it. Like, "No, we don't deserve this." They feel awful. And he's like, no, I will do this. And I don't want you guys to ever forget this moment. Why? Because serving is messy. Loving others is messy. You're like, "So if it's messy, why should we do it?" My son is in Pikeville at college. And he's there. He told me he's going to be watching online. I know he's not. I know he's sleeping in. But if you're watching online, God bless you and your buddies. My daughter's here, so she's Shawnee, so she comes home on the weekend. But let me tell you guys who have young kids something, okay? Because we had young kids about the same age, very close in age. It's wide open, isn't it? I mean, you're just like, if I could just go to the bathroom for 5 minutes and someone not yell "Mom" or "Dad." Right, you as young kids know, it's wide open. You wake up and say, hey, what are we doing today? It's like it's 6 a.m. Just chill for a second, okay? Let me have a cup of coffee. It's like that. Here's the thing, you think as you keep getting older, then they get older, they kind of get more dependent. Here's the thing I've learned in our home. No one told me this. Our kids, when they leave, they leave, at one point they come on weekends, leave on Sunday night. When they would leave, my wife's exceptional. By Monday at about 2 o'clock, our house is spotless. I'm not kidding. Our front room sparkles. I walk in from work on Monday and I'm like, "My goodness, our house looks good." It's the time I wish some of you would drop by unexpectedly. I'd be so proud. Come on in. I don't care. Our house is amazing. Right? But here's the deal. As soon as they come home, they both come home. If they come home on Friday, they dump all their stuff in the front room. And it's nasty. It's old clothes that need to be washed. There's rats in their bag. I don't know where they're living. Stuff's filthy everywhere. And here's the thing. I thought, what will we pick? You parents know. Because here's what I've learned. When they're gone, it's quieter, right? It's less messy. But you know what else? There's less joy. There's less joy. You know what happens when they're there? It's louder. It's more expensive. They're always asking me for money. They make a mess of our whole house. But there's also more joy. You see, maybe some of us need to quit trying to clean up our life and compartmentalize our life and have to say, how about we embrace the mess? Because the mess is what ultimately brings joy. All of us in here know that. All of us in here know that the mess is what makes the difference. Loving others is messy. I'm thinking about a few people. I'm just going to call them out real quick. They kind of know this, they kind of don't. But one is Tori and Dale, and they're in the service. But you'll always notice, I love Dale. You know why I love, let me talk about Dale real quick. You know why I love him? This man loves the Reds. And I watch him get his hopes up every year. I watch him in about July. I think we're going to do it. I'm like, yeah, we're feeling good. Then I watch him come back in August, and it's off the rails. But he's faithful, right? You got to respect that. Like a Lions fan, a Browns fan, you got to love them. But Tori, I was talking to Alicia, our cross kids director, and I said, let's just talk through some people, helpful, amazing, doing stuff. And it was one of the first names she popped up. And she started listening a ton, so trust me, there's a lot of you. But she was like, she doesn't know how much she helps me in such critical times. And more than anything else, the reason I want to show you her picture today is because I thought, I bet Tori doesn't know that. I bet she really doesn't know the difference that she makes. Is it messy? I'm sure. Is it complicated working now the kids and try to help with? She's always helping with the programs and different things. Sure. Then another family. This is Travis and Katie Wagner. And Katie, lately, as you're walking out today with our giving statements, but we have these out if you want to grab highlights. But Katie's story's on the back. And the reason I want to bring both of them up is because both of them, Tori has brought joy to us. She's helped us. She's brought peace. She's made Alicia's life better. And I haven't asked Tori this personally, but for Katie, if you read this letter, she said, I have more joy. My life is messier, but I have more joy now that I'm plugged in and serving. And here's why I want to show both of them. Do you know something in the pictures? Both of them, younger families, little kids, nurse prac, jobs. So if you just talk to them like, how do you do it? How do you not stay busy? They're probably like, I'm busy. We all are. But we're going to make a choice to embrace the mess. Why would we embrace the mess? Because serving always blesses the mess. See, Jesus knew a secret. I'm not going to help people change in life by judging them. I'm going to help people change in life by loving them. It's just how it works. And serving is one of the key ways that we can bless the mess of other people's lives. Look at verse 34. After Jesus washed the feet, he says this. He says, okay, guys, time's coming. So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other, just as I have loved you. Here's the new commandment that trumps it all. Okay, this is the new covenant. The old covenant is now being, fulfilled. The new covenant's in. How's this? How do we operate? I know you had a ton of commandments. We're just going to give you one. New commandment. Love each other. Just as I've loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world. Hey, hold on. Because if we're church people, here's how this works. My Bible knowledge will prove to the world. My superior judgment of other people who don't know as much as me will prove. No, it doesn't say that. My holiness and set apart from everyone will prove. No. What's it say? It says, no, your love for one another is how you're going to prove to the whole world that you follow me. That's what Jesus said. This is my new commandment. Serving always blesses the mess. So as we get ready to close, I'm going to tell you a story, okay? And listen, I'm not up here with any superiority, okay? I struggle. I want to be right all the time. Do you know that? I've learned a long time ago how to be right. Do you know how to win every argument? It's real simple. Talk really loud, talk really fast, and spit some. Now, you really don't win the argument, but they just don't want to mess with you. They're like, oh, yeah, you're right, leave me alone. Okay? But here's what I've learned. I know when you grow up in here's what I've known. When you grow up in your family and you do things your way, you don't realize it's weird until an outside source comes in. So Tegan, her boyfriend, I think we were coming back from Thanksgiving, some event one time, and it's the first time I ever really heard it, but he was like, your all's family is so loud. He's like, it freaks me out. He's like, when you walk in, everyone just yells over top of each other. And he was like, no one's mad. That's just how you communicate. Like everyone, he's like, there's 30 people in this room, and they're all yelling to talk over each other. And when he first said that, I was like, we don't do that. But then you're like, we do, right? If someone's not listening to me, I don't wait for you to finish talking. I just keep talking louder to inject in. So I get it, guys. But Jesus is like, but that's not how we love people. Trying to make my point isn't how I love you. We got to bless the mess. So here, a quick story. There was a boy that lived close to us. Tatum became very good friends. His name was Tristan. Became very good friends with him when they were kids. And Tristan would come over our house, spend the night with us a lot. And it's awesome. He's literally like, to this day, I feel like he's just literally one of my kids. And so because my family's white trash, we love the Lawrence County Fair, okay? We do. We love it. And my kids, because, again, trashy people breed trashy kids, they love it too. They think it's the greatest thing on earth. So when they're little, I mean like 5, 6, 7, they're like, hey, we're getting ready to go to the fair. And I think Tristan was going to maybe stay with us a couple of nights, but they're just building it up. I mean, they're talking like it's Vegas, right? I mean, it's like the MGM. Poor Tristan gets there and he's like, what? What? This is the greatest place in the world? Better than Disney World? But anyways, so Tristan's there, and Tristan was always a big kid. Like, he was, like, way bigger than my two, just always a very big, like, tall, just a big kid. But we get to the rides, like the first night at the fair, my kids love rides. And I can tell he was like, I don't know about this. So they're doing something. And looking back, Tristan's the smartest one, because he was smart enough to know if carnival workers put together a ride in 2 hours that we're trusting our life on, we probably shouldn't get on that ride. But anyways, he didn't love rides. We're sitting there. So we finally walk around Midway and we get this place. And there's an old, like, Viking ship. If you've ever been to Kings Island, there's a big version of the Viking ship, right? Well, it's a tinier version. And I'm watching. I'm like, it really ain't going that high. This would probably be a good, like, thing to ride. And so what happens is, like, I'm still talking to him. Like, hey, get on the ship with those guys. It'll be, I don't know. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's slow. You'll love it. He's like, okay. So this little 6, 7, 8-year-old boy, he gets in the, and they weren't very smart because they got in the very, like, bottom, like, the whole far left side. So here it goes. And if you know anything about the Viking ship, you got the wheels, and it's like, vroom, vroom, vroom. But then it starts picking up, right? It gets faster, and it goes higher. Well, I watch, and about the 4th time it starts to go up, and he's on this far end with my kids. My kids are having a blast. They're looking at it. They don't see it. But he's in the middle of them, and you can see him, like you can tell it's starting to come, right? And then he's like pale as a ghost, green, kind of holding his mouth. And here's the worst part. It's like a horror movie, because every time the ship goes up, he's staring at a bunch of people he's getting ready to just vomit on, right? I cannot make this up. They're all like, no, yelling. Women are crying like, stop the ride. Like, it's crazy. And my wife and I are just like, this is a train wreck. It's awesome to watch. We're loving it, right? It gets to where, literally, I'm not making this up, it's in his hand, right? It comes out, it's in his hand. He's trying to hold it. So that rider smokes a cigarette. Okay, he slows it down, gets him off. Here's the whole point of this, though. He gets off the ride, makes a beeline right off of the ship, and there's, like, it's makeshift gate with an exit. He gets to and before he can even get outside of the exit, he just projectile vomits everywhere. It's everywhere. Now, what do you think happens in that moment? Everybody who's been horrified on that ride is literally running to get away because it's just going everywhere. My wife and I are obviously trying to make our way to him, but before we could even get to him, there's one girl on this ride, one girl, the whole ship, who's like maybe high school, early college, very young girl. Everyone's like, oh, horrified, ran away. One girl literally runs to him. And before we can even get to him, she let her hand on his back. Are you okay? I could tell you're getting sick on there. Like, she's just talking to him. And the reason I'm telling you that is because what we want to naturally do is always run away from the mess. But what happens if you run to the mess? What happens then? That's when we really love people. Don't run away from the mess. Run to the mess. You know what the most amazing thing about Jesus is today? I'm not being churchy. I'm just telling you. Jesus is the one who ran to my mess and your mess. He wasn't put off by it. He ran to it because he loves us that much. Remember that verse? Here it is. Ready? Love each other just as I have loved you. Jesus, how did you? Hope that wasn't a Stanley. They expensive, bro. I keep up with the times. But before we pray, here's what I say. So if Jesus runs to my mess and your mess, and we love like Jesus, what's that mean we do this week? We run to the mess, not away from it. So watching online, man, so glad you guys joined us online, all of you in this room. But here's what I want to challenge you to do. If we we're just going to pray for a second before we get out of here. Just close your eyes for just a second. God, we thank you so much for your amazing love. We thank you that your son humbled himself, came to earth with all the power in the world. He came to the earth as a servant, humbling himself so he could run to our mess. The cross is nothing else but a great picture of how much God, you, run to my mess. Thank you for that, God. God, I pray as we walk out these doors this week, whether we're working in the factory, whether we're teachers, whether we work in offices, whether we're stay at home, that we would love others the way that you have loved us. Help us to do that today. And God, I pray for someone here they don't even know where to start. Pray today maybe they would realize in their mess, like all of us here, that you are running to us. You're running to bless our mess. So if that's you, maybe today's the first day that you're literally turning back. You're changing your mind, turning back to God. And you want to join me in a prayer, something like this. Jesus, I know I've made a mess of my life. I know I've sinned. I know I've jacked things up. Jesus, this morning, I'm asking you to forgive me, to save me. Thank you for coming down to earth, paying the ultimate sacrifice so I could have life in you. So here's your prayer. Jesus, thank you for saving me. Now give me new life. Work in me and use me to love others the way that I've been loved. Thank you, Jesus, for forgiving me and saving me. As we continue praying, I'm going to pray for some of you to step out of your comfort zones this week. Maybe you've been trying so hard to make sure your life and your front room is immaculate and it sparkles. And I'm here to tell you guys, before God, that's not the way to joy and happiness. We've got to embrace the mess. We've got to bless the mess. We have to run to the mess. That's how we become salt and light. So this morning, God, I pray as we leave this place, as we leave this gathering, that we would actually be the church the remaining 6.5 days. That people would see your love, because we're not trying to make a point. We're just trying to make a difference. People would see us as salt shakers and not fault finders. People would see us loving them the way that you loved us. Jesus, I pray you help us to do that today as we walk out these doors. Let us be your love to a world that's dark and boring and flavorless. Let us be salt and light because they desperately need it. We ask these things in your name, and amen. Guys, man, have a great week. Hopefully you come back excited for the final week of the good life. We'll see you next week. Take care.